As four Swedish musicians rise to pop royalty, the globe watches the bright lights of the 1970s disco period and the contagious melodies of ABBA fill stadiums. At the heart of it all were Benny Andersson and Anni Frida Lyngstad, a once golden pair in both music and life, but behind the sequins and harmonies of the flawlessly staged concerts and picture-perfect smiles, a storm was brewing, and behind the storm, for years, fans thought that ABBA's breakup was just the result of changing trends and personal grievances. However, Andersson has now spoken up, exposing a side of Frida that fans never really saw, a side that was complex, turbulent, and occasionally extremely destructive. Their friendship, their love, and their music all fell apart in ways that were far darker than the world ever knew, but Frida's problems didn't stop with Benny. Throughout her career, she had arguments, betrayals, and personal struggles that painted a far more dramatic picture than the meticulously manicured image of ABBA ever let on. Frida's relationship with Benny Andersson was a feud, in contrast to Bjorn and Agnetha, whose relationship was notorious for its emotional instability. After falling completely in love, they became ABBA's second power couple. Their romance was similar to that of Bjorn Ulvaeus and Agnetha Fsaug. Frida was a fiery independent woman who was ambitious and determined to succeed in the music industry. Benny, a musical genius with a keen sense of melody, recognized Frida's talent and charisma as an indisputable force. For years, they built something together, a musical empire and a partnership that seemed unbreakable, but beneath the surface, cracks were already forming as ABBA's fame skyrocketed. Their breakup was full of bitterness, resentment, and accusations that went much deeper. Frida's strong-willed emotional nature and Benny's methodical approach to music frequently clashed. She was expressive and passionate, while he preferred control and structure. Their creative differences quickly escalated into personal frustrations, culminating in a climax in the early 1920s. When the truth finally surfaced, Benny's heart wandered, and rumors of his infidelity started to spread. Frida was devastated, feeling humiliated and angry, not only as a wife but also as an artist who had given everything to ABBA. Their relationship broke down under the weight of unresolved tensions and broken trust, and by 1981 it was over, but the wounds didn't go away. Even after ABBA's split, Frida and Benny's resentment persisted because she perceived him as a cold, detached man who had abandoned their love as soon as he was done with it, and he struggled with Frida's unpredictable nature. You may have heard about her fiery temper and reluctance to let go. The Murmurs' two stunning women, one band and an unavoidable rivalry. Fans and tabloids speculated for years that Frida and Agnetha were secretly fighting for attention. Initially, both ladies denied this, referring to one another as friends or sisters. Although they were partners in song, their relationship was more nuanced behind closed doors. Because of her husky voice, dark dramatic stage presence, and ability to command attention, Frida frequently felt that her ethereal blonde beauty and her iconic soaring vocals overshadowed her. While Amanda was regarded as ABBA's golden girl, Frida was frequently considered the supporting act, the second voice, and the one who had to contend with tensions for recognition. The world assumed that Frida and Agnetha's split was amicable, but insiders knew better. Despite the glamour and fame, Frida Lyng's life was not one of pop anthems and fairy tales. Behind the dazzling stage lights and soaring harmonies lay a woman haunted by shadows, betrayal and grief, which the world never really saw. In the studio, on tour, and even in interviews, Rose wondered who would take the lead vocals and whose face would grace the album cover. The questions gradually sowed a rift between them that never fully healed. Imagine this newborn child, innocent and ignorant, but already labeled as an outcast. When Frida Lyngstad was born, the world did not want her. It was 1945 at the end of World War II, and Norway was still recovering from the trauma of Nazi occupation. Her mother, Sine Lyngstad, had fallen in love with a German soldier named Alfred Hasse. However, after the war, women who had relationships with German officers were labeled traitors, humiliated, and shunned by their people. Their children, known as Tker bears or German children, were even worse. They were treated like stains on Norwegian blood, reminders of a time no one wanted to remember. Imagine growing up knowing that your very existence was considered a crime, that the country of your birth had disowned you, despised you, and seen you as a mistake. Although Sweden provided her safety, it was never able to erase the trauma of being a child without a true homeland. Frida never had the chance to know her father because she believed he had died in battle. Her mother made the heartbreaking decision to flee to Sweden in hopes of starting over and giving her daughter a life free from shame. Years later, Frida discovered that her father had survived the war and was still alive. He had created a life for himself that excluded her, and their long-awaited reunion was awkward and forced. There was no joy. A girl without a father and a woman who was constantly searching for a place to belong. The abandonment she experienced as a child never completely left her. It would permeate her relationships, her music, and her very sense of self. She was constantly searching for love, stability, and belonging but never found it for years. Embrace no fairy tale ending, only unsolved questions, and a relationship that never really became what she had once dreamed of. Following the heartbreak of her broken engagement with Benny Andersson, Frida, the woman with the fiery red hair and seductive voice who had been portrayed as ABBA's fierce independent warrior, was not immune to the painful contradictions of love in private. The ABBA queen had become a real-life princess living in a Swiss castle far from the chaos of the music industry. However, as with most fairy tales, the illusion was asked to reveal a far darker truth behind the wealth and status, and the marriage was anything but perfect. Frida sought a new life and a new identity, and she found it in royalty in 1992 when she married Prince Heinrich Rousseau-Rose of Plain, a German aristocrat to the public. Frida, who had fought for independence and freedom for her voice her entire life, was suddenly thrust into a world of strict expectations, stifling traditions, and silent obedience. She had spent her life escaping control and silence, but it had returned in a different form. She had traded one cage for another, longed for stability, and even as she attempted to convince the world that she had found happiness, there were whispers of tension surrounding her. Prince Rousseau was powerful, respected, and extremely influential, but he was also controlling. She was torn between self-preservation and love, and then, as she was starting to establish herself in this strange world, disaster struck her love fortune. The loss of a child in 1998 was a mother's worst nightmare come true when her darling daughter Anne died in a terrible vehicle accident. The anguish was excruciating, and the loss altered everything. Anne's falsehoods, oppressive and relentless, had been her compass and motivation to continue after ABBA, Benny, and everything else, but now she was no more. The once fiery, bold woman who had commanded the stage with unwavering confidence faded away. She no longer wanted to sing, she no longer wanted to be seen, and she no longer wanted to exist in the world that had stolen everything from her for years. Frida shut out the world, withdrew from public life, and disappeared into the shadows, isolating herself from those who cared about her. She had already lost so much: her home, her marriage, her sense of identity, and even her identity, and now she had lost the one person who truly understood her. For decades, fans saw Frida as the bold, fierce, unstoppable performer who stood alongside ABBA's greatest hits with undeniable energy, but behind that image was a woman who fought battles no one truly understood. Her conflicts with Benny, her tensions with Agneta, her personal tragedies, all of it painted a picture of someone who lived a life filled with as much heartbreak as success. However, her true story was one of struggle and loss, of endless battles fought behind the curtain. She was born into rejection, fought her way into fame, but lost almost everything along the way, abandoned, betrayed, controlled, and broken, but she persevered, and the echo of her voice remains. It is up to the world to reconsider Frida's tale. There is no doubt that the legend of ABBA will never be the same. Was she a victim of her circumstances, or did her fiery personality lead to her own downfall? Was she misunderstood or equally culpable for the tensions surrounding her?